The reason why Moshiach is called a marriage is because a marriage essentially means that every single person in this world has a soulmate. Every man has a soulmate, every woman has a soulmate. And I was alive and my soul was around long before I was born. And my wife's soul was around and she was alive long before she was born. And before we were born, we just existed on the soul level. We were these two souls, these two energies, these two auras. And our two souls, our two energies, our two auras were perfectly compatible with each other. They complemented each other perfectly, and they were in sync with each other. And they were obviously incompatible with all other souls, all other energies, all other beings and entities. Take, for example, two ideas which are very related and complement each other. And then you have two other ideas which are each standalone great ideas, but they have no connection with each other. They share no connection. And similarly, every single soul had a soulmate, had another soul which perfectly complemented it and fused with it and was in sync with it, and they loved each other and they were compatible and they were perfect together. And it was essentially incompatible with all other souls. Then though, God tears apart every unit. God tears apart every union and every marriage and every two souls. He tears them apart. And the male half he sends down into a male body, and the female half he sends down into a female body. And when we come into this world, we don't see other people's souls, we see other people's bodies. And because of that, the moment we come into this world, a man no longer is magically drawn to his one perfect special woman. And a woman is no longer magically drawn to her one perfect special man. Instead, a man looks around and he sees 3.5 billion female bodies. He sees 3.5 billion viable options for a partner. And a woman looks around and sees 3.5 billion viable partners for her. And the reason why God does this, the reason why God tears apart every two souls and sends them into this world, is that the purpose is that a man is meant to sift through all the 3.5 billion women and come back to his woman. A woman is meant to sift through the 3.5 billion men in the world and come back to her man. And when that happens, why that's important, why that's meaningful, why that's powerful, why that's deep, is because that basically proves and demonstrates how real their connection always was. That their connection is so real, they're so meant for each other that even when there's so many distractions, even when they're not just put together, even when there's so many distractions and other options, and the man is hidden amongst 3.5 billion other men and the woman is hidden amongst 3.5 billion other women, ultimately they're always going to come back together because their connection is so real, their connection is so deep, their connection is so meaningful, their connection is so real and essential. And when they do come back together, they demonstrate that, they prove that, they show to each other and to the world how real their connection is. That even with all these other options, even with all these other distractions, they still found each other, they still came back together, and really there was no other options. This woman was the only woman for this man, and this man was the only man for this woman. And that's why every marriage is an amazing, amazing moment. It's a very happy moment because A, it's a reunion, and also it's a very powerful declaration to the entire world. Now, every marriage is really just a microcosm of Moshiach. And every marriage is like a mini Moshiach. And Moshiach is the exact same phenomenon, just in a much more global way. Because all of us humans and all of us Jews, so our souls were alive and existed long before we were born. And before we were born, before our souls came into this world, our souls were in perfect harmony and sync with our soulmate, with Hashem, with God. Because every soul is literally a piece of God. And before we were born, our souls were in love with God, our souls were in sync with God, our souls were compatible with God, and we didn't want anything else, we didn't value anything else, nothing else was for us. The only one we wanted and the only one we were with was Hashem, and we were just in this perfect, beautiful bliss. But then Hashem tore us away from him, and he tore himself away from us, so to speak, and he sent us into physical bodies, into the physical world. And suddenly when we come into the physical world, we're no longer programmed to choose Hashem. It's no longer easy to choose Hashem. In fact, we are instinctively, and what we feel naturally and what we're programmed to do in this world is to choose the other 3.5 billion partners. There's so many things in this world that can distract us. There's so many things in this world we can spend our time pursuing and investing our energy in, and basically choosing not God, choosing other men. And when a Jew says that, no, my connection with Hashem is so real, it's so innate, it's so deep, it's the only thing, that even though I'm not programmed, and even though it's not easy, and even though there's so many other options and distractions, there's no other choice. I'm going to come back to Hashem. I'm still going to choose Hashem because Hashem ultimately is the only one for me. And every time you do a mitzvah, you are making that declaration. You are saying that even though I'm not programmed to do the mitzvah, even though it's not easy to do the mitzvah, I am doing the mitzvah, and thereby choosing Hashem as my partner, choosing Hashem as my soulmate, declaring to the world that Hashem is really the only soulmate for me. And this will be completed in the coming of Moshiach, because Moshiach will be the consummation of the marriage. And that's why Moshiach at its core is really us Jews keeping all the Torah mitzvahs. Because when we keep all the Torah mitzvahs, what we're saying is basically, we want to be feeling Hashem and experiencing Hashem and choosing Hashem 24/7. There's no moment of our day that we don't want to feel and interact and connect with Hashem. We don't want to feel anyone else. We don't want to connect with anyone else. We don't want to see or touch or feel or connect with anything or anyone or anything else in the world or anyone else in the world. All we want is Hashem 24/7, constantly, by constantly doing Torah mitzvahs in every waking day and moment. And remember that Golus ends with us, so let's bring Moshiach together, and God bless you.